There's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to it be Susie humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord, yeah, yeah.
All right, hey, it's time for New South Christians. This is David Fuqua, your host. I'm really excited about today. I met this young man the other day. I got to be honest with you, I think God just keeps sending them. I mean, I've been so blessed. Some very unique people. And I met this gentleman outside of Dr. Burton's office the other day. I guess you letter recommendation advising or something.
Yeah, I was actually there to see Mr. Williams, who was right next door.
Yeah, there you go, yeah. Professor Williams. But I don't know, I've been praying, Lord, send me some people. And I came out, I took one look at him and I said, you're the guy God sent. He probably thought I was insane and a little crazy. Oh, no. But then I started talking to him and his story is fascinating. I'll just say that. I will tell you this before he introduces himself. He's from Chicago, originally South Side, which has its own reputation. And but he's been on some journeys around the world for God or somebody. So we'll just have a great conversation. So I'm really excited. So go ahead and introduce yourself and we can get started.
Hey, my name is Jeff. Yeah, like you said, from Chicago. I made it out. I'm so happy to be here in Nashville. It's such a different culture in Chicago. It's very cold. People aren't very open.
Right.
Came down to Nashville. It was almost a little culture shock. Like, hey, sweetheart, how you doing, baby?
How you doing?
Yeah, do I know you? Like, people act like you know them for years. I mean, so I'm really digging it here. People are very open, very, hospitable. So. Southern hospitality is real.
Good. Well, let's get to the good stuff. I mean, the stuff you shared with me outside, I'm kind of freaking out, so I'm very excited. So just kind of tell us about your spiritual journey. How would you title it? Like, I mean, clearly you're very
roller coaster.
You have a very passionate spiritual perspective from what you were sharing out there, and I just want to get as much of that as we can because I'm very excited.
Sure. Well, yeah, my spiritual journey is. You'd call it a roller coaster. I mean, ups and downs, lefts and rights, kind of figuring things out.
So what's your background? What on a spiritual level or religious, however you want to word it?
So I was raised in a Christian household when I was very young. However, when I was in about third grade, I kind of did away with the churches. My parents were very hypocritical.
Third grade?
Yeah.
Woo.
It was a specific time. My grandmother was someone who she was kind of like my rock in my life, the person who was kind of like my anchor in the storm because my household was just, full of fighting, It was just hell in my house, just honestly. So my grandma was the one person who was kind of like that, like person I looked up to, and she was a person of faith. But when she passed away when I was in third grade, I decided I'm an atheist. God isn't real. I see how people are portraying him.
So third grade, you made the decision, I'm an atheist, just turned your back on it all.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I decided, from the way people were representing him, my parents specifically, and then just kind of my grandma passing away, I'm like, there can't be a God. Fourth grade, I started, smoking weed. I was just a delinquent.
Fourth grade?
Yeah, 10, 11 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So I got off to a rocky start in life. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'll make it a long story short.
Sure.
When I got into high school, I was just depressed as could be, just riddled with anxiety, and I saw no future for myself. I didn't like myself.
So your anxiety was directly proportional to, obviously, your grandmother passes away, bad family life, et cetera.
Bad family life, parents divorced, just not feeling like I had any stability in my life, and feeling like it was all on me. I didn't really have anyone guiding me in that way. So, I was just messed up. I didn't like myself, and so that in that way, naturally, I wasn't able to like others.
Right. So you had nothing to do with the church at all? You're still an atheist?
No, in fact,
don't believe?
In fact, my best friend was a Catholic. I used to make fun of him, make fun of God, the whole thing. I wanted nothing to do with it. However, by the time I got into around sophomore year of high school, I started to become interested in spirituality, besides Christianity. So I was researching different religions. Buddhism was very interesting to me. kind of got into that. But what I really got into is called New Age spirituality.
Okay.
So you've probably heard of it, people manifesting, crystals, meditation.
We had a young lady on here from Burbank. She was talking about manifestation and crystals and everything. So,
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So for me, it was like seeing was believing, right? I wanted to have a tangible experience.
now that is very interesting because almost everybody we've had on the show have all said with very sincere, I don't want to hear about God. I want to have a personal experience with
yeah.
God. So
Yeah.
even coming out of where you were, that's what you wanted.
Yeah, that's what our generation wants. We're hungry. We
Right.
we want something more than just this 9 to 5, go home, go to work. It's not
Yeah.
fulfilling.
Right.
There's got to be something more.
Right.
And I think my generation is spiritually hungry in that way.
Well, see, I don't try to say too much about me, but it's those triggers like that, and everybody we've had has said the same thing. But then when I go back and read articles about your generation, it's, oh, they're the one killing Jesus, they're the one killing religion. But then they talk about the hunger, they want an experience with God, they talk about, revival and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm not seeing that. I'm like, that hunger, whatever, is going to be used and driven, in my opinion, for the revival, not for the killing of.
Right.
I mean, that's just
agree.
that's what
I do
I'm coming
agree.
away from all this with.
I do agree, and I think my story is going to lead
Well,
right into
you
that.
go for
how
it, then.
happened.
Let's get there.
So,
Yeah.
to kind of get back on track.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
got into this New Age spirituality, right?
Okay.
And it's very tangible, and it's very real. So it's very
Really?
attractive in that way.
Yeah, I've never participated in that, so how would you describe that? I don't.
New Age is kind of like everything goes, right?
Okay.
There's not too much of a guiding principle. It's kind of just whatever calls to you. So if you're feeling like crystals are your thing, that's cool. If you're feeling like deep transcendental meditation, that's cool too. Lucid dreaming, it's all kind of stuff, and it's all tangible, and it's all an experience, which is what I think people are looking for, like you said.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
It's the real
now.
deal.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So.
But is it God or is it the devil? I mean, what do you
Good question.
If I show up to my local church
Yeah.
with my crystal and my manifestation and my dreaming or whatever, I have a feeling I'm going to a special place.
Yeah, very good question. So that's
Yeah.
going to lead to the climax of my story.
Okay, go for it.
So I wanted nothing to do with God. I wasn't looking for God.
Sure.
I was way into this stuff. And I thought it was bringing me like this peace. But the reality, what I found is that it was just another high, right?
Okay.
So it was good in the moment, but then you kind of had this come down and you're kind of like, what's my purpose?
Right.
It's kind of unsure in that way. But I had a wild experience when I was meditating where I heard this kind of voice talking to me in my head. And I knew it wasn't me. And I was like telling me kind of everything I wanted to hear,
Okay.
which was really interesting.
All right.
And this experience kind of freaked me out. I wasn't quite expecting it. And so I was researching kind of people's New Age testimonies on YouTube. And I heard a lot of people say they had a similar experience, kind of like an awakening, enlightenment experience. And I was like, I wonder what this voice was. Out of like the 10 videos I watched, some people said, oh yeah, that voice is your spiritual guide talking to you. You know, some
Okay.
people have Jesus, some people have like Muhammad, Buddha. It's all
Okay.
relative. Like whatever calls to you, everything goes. It's kind of this real
Okay.
free-spirited, real
Everything's
free-flowing.
beautiful. Let's
Yeah,
hear it.
everything goes. You know, God is one, the universe. You know, all this kind of talk.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
understand now.
yeah, it was interesting. So I was like, okay. And I was thinking to myself, oh man, I wonder what my voice is. I wonder who's my spiritual guide. And out of these 10 videos I watched, this one person out of nowhere, like out of left field, told his kind of story about how he heard the voice. And then he's like, that voice is the devil deceiving you. If you don't believe me, ask that voice in the name of Jesus to reveal itself and see what happens. When I heard that,
And you did?
well,
Okay.
eventually I did, but when I first heard that, I got angry. Like
Okay.
physically angry. I was like, oh, Jesus is the worst. Like, how could this guy, like, how did I get led to this video? I don't want to see this. Jesus is the worst. The people who follow Jesus, man, they're the most hypocritical, just the worst people. I don't know. Definitely my guy isn't Jesus. Can't be that.
Right.
But the whole thing about meditation is clearing your mind and
Right.
opening yourself up and being
Okay.
completely empty. That was my whole thing. So the next time I went to go meditate, I was just trying to clear my mind, and that little thought kept popping back into my head. Just prove it to yourself. Just ask the voice in the name of Jesus, who is it? So I was just home alone, doing my thing. I had like, New Age posters on my wall. I had my incense burning. Like I was way into this stuff, and I was not looking for God whatsoever.
So you got the posters, you got the incense, you're in the groove.
I'm way into it.
Okay.
And I'm just meditating, doing my thing. And I asked this, little thing in my head. I'm like, in the name of Jesus, who are you? As soon as I said that, that's when all hell broke loose, literally. I started hearing this loud, audible screaming in my head. I'm the devil. I'm going to kill you.
Oh my
I'm like having a
gosh.
panic attack. I run outside of my house into the street. I'm like smacking myself. I'm like, wake up. This isn't real. This isn't happening.
So this at night?
This is in the middle of the day.
Okay.
I probably skipped school or was doing some delinquent activity.
Okay.
And I was just by myself, and I thought I was dreaming because I used to do lucid dreaming. It's kind of like where you're awake and control your dreams.
Okay.
But when I realized I was in the middle of the street smacking myself and I wasn't dreaming, I'm like, oh man, my reality shattered in that moment, and I hit rock bottom, and I was
Really?
having a full-blown kind of panic attack, anxiety attack for the first time in
Yeah,
my
I was
life.
taking a panic attack for
Yeah,
sure.
I was having a panic attack. I thought I was convinced that I was schizophrenic. I was gonna have to go to a mental hospital.
Wow.
And I went back in my room. I'm just like, I can't breathe. I'm freaking out. I'm like, never had anything like this. I had no context for this.
Okay.
And I just kind of said to myself, I'm like, you know what, Jesus, I don't know if you're real, but if you are, please help me.
Wow.
And in that moment, it was
Really?
it was like just washed from head to toe. And I
Wow.
felt true peace for the first time in my life. I felt like I was just floating, that I never felt so light. And I just started
Wow.
weeping for the first time
My
since third grade, since my
gosh.
grandma died.
Now,
So that's how I got saved. It's a little bit untraditional.
kind of like what age is this?
So that was when I was 17 years old.
So you're still in Chicago.
Yeah, still in Chicago, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty.
So that's how I found the Lord. I wasn't looking
Okay.
for him. I wasn't, I wanted nothing
This
to do
isn't
with
the-
it.
This
but
is
in
the
the wi-
traditional altar call.
No,
This is-
it's totally weird, but man, I'd like to think he found me because, man, I wasn't looking for him and I wanted nothing to do with him, but for some reason he chose me.
I had a pastor used to say, God sends you to people, not places. And I'm thinking, something definitely must have happened to you as far as in that moment. Because they talk about how simple it is if you ask God to come into your life and do these things and you truly
it was
believe.
simple, and
so.
I didn't even have any faith. I wasn't sure, I was just like,
Well, so
maybe.
then what happened?
Oh man, then it was a heck of a journey. You'd think after that I'd start reading the Bible and start following Christ.
No.
No, I didn't. I started researching the devil and witchcraft. I'm like, oh man, was this
Wait a
experience
minute,
real?
This
Did I make this
drove
up?
you to research the devil?
Not in order to follow him, but kind of to see like,
Like if you've been tricked?
yeah,
or-
like if I've been tricked.
Okay, I understand.
Right, because that's the
Okay.
way, the devil doesn't portray himself as this evil guy. He's the knowledge bringer, right? He's the
Right.
knowledge bearer and he's an angel of light. That's how he portrays himself.
Okay.
So I was like, man, I wonder kind of in what other areas he's working. So I kind of did all this weird research and eventually started reading the Bible, and it was a heck of a journey. Yeah, I don't even know where to go from there. I
Well,
mean, it
so
was-
how do you, I know you're going to end up in Nepal.
Right.
So how do you go from graduating high school?
Okay.
You get to Nashville somehow, and
Yep,
in between that, you go to Nepal.
That's
so
right.
I don't know how you
Okay.
bridge those. Why don't
Yeah,
you just
so-
do it and we'll go with it?
Sure,
so.
sure. So when I first graduated high school, I had, and I still have, just a passion for photography. So I wanted to travel around, do some, photography. And I connected with a family in Louisiana, moved down there, and they really discipled me in my faith.
Really?
They kind of sat me down.
More traditional church experience? Or
Yeah, a little more traditional. Yeah, I tried going to a few mega churches and
not your thing?
not my
Just
thing, just not my style. No, I don't want to bash on churches, but just seemed a little
So
bit
what do you feel
more
the most comfortable in? A small traditional
in a small
or
group.
a small group?
I prefer small group, but
Okay.
yeah. So this family sat me down and just explained me the context of the Bible, who it's written to. It's not just I had no context. They just explained everything to me and they led me in that way. And I was talking to them and I just told them that I just felt this thing in my heart from God that I was supposed to be a missionary. And I didn't even know quite what that was. And
Okay.
I mentioned it to them and they're like, oh my gosh, you got to do this program called YWAM. It's Youth with a Mission.
It's called Why?
YWAM. Youth with a
YWAM.
Mission. That's what it stands for.
Yeah, youth with a. I think I've met some people at Vol
Yeah.
State. I mean, are they strong
Probably so.
locally or
They're strong everywhere. It's the
Okay.
biggest missions organization in the world. And what I love about
is it targeting young people or is it
It's anyone.
for anyone?
Young-
Okay.
It's targeting young people, but
Okay.
I mean, we have people in their 80s who come and join. Everyone's-
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Really, there's people in their 80s who come and just kind of do it for the first time.
Wow.
But what I love about it is it's interdenominational, as opposed to
Okay.
non-denominational. So everyone from Catholic
So
to
you
far
see
out
it all.
Pentecostal. Everyone's there, which is so cool, right? Because you wouldn't
Right.
normally you wouldn't see these two people in the same context, like a Pentecostal and a Catholic. You'd never see them, doing
Okay.
doing life together. But
Okay.
that's what I loved about it. It was like It was really like
So
kind of seeing
through
heaven
this
on earth.
organization, you went to places?
So through this organization, they have a 6-month program. I did
Okay.
3 months lecture, just kind of learning more about my faith, and then I did 3 months to Alaska. That's where
Wow.
my outreach was, and man, Alaska's wild. Alaska is a
How
wild,
so?
wild
How
place.
so? Just-
So only 3% of it is accessed by roads.
Right.
So it's mostly just like pockets of little native villages.
Sure.
So me and my team, we couldn't even all fit on one plane. We had to take these little 7-seater bush planes out into the middle of nowhere in Alaska
Oh, wow.
and just saw some gut-wrenching stuff. I mean, people are having a rough time there. I mean,
You mean like drugs, alcohol?
alcohol, family problems,
anxiety?
depression, everything. I mean, you got to think about it. 6 months of the year, they're not getting any vitamin D. I mean, it's dark 6 months of the year. They're
Right.
up here in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they have one little store in their town, and it's $10 for a box of Oreos. $20 for a gallon of gas. I mean, so these
Okay.
people are mostly living off the land, like subsistence. So they hunt whales,
Wow.
get the berries, caribou, all this kind of stuff.
So how's this mission field working for you? I
Man,
mean,
so that experience, just seeing the way people live in our own backyard, it just changed my perspective forever.
Okay.
I could never be just this spoiled American brat again. I
Uh-huh.
had this true humility of like, man, I got it really, really good, and I had no idea how good I have it.
right.
You can watch a documentary, you can watch things like that, but until you are really feet on the ground, experiencing what people are going
Sure.
through, and really like connecting with them that way, man, it broke my heart.
So how long were you there in those little villages?
I was
or-
there for 3 months. We kind of traveled all around, and then I came
Wow.
back. And my base where I did my school was in Hawaii, which is
Oh,
a nice
man.
place to do it. Man, it
So
was like heaven on earth.
Chicago, Louisiana, Alaska, Hawaii.
Yep. So then I hung out in Hawaii for about a year, and I did kind of like a leadership training program.
Sure.
And then I also taught. We have a whole families who come and do mission together.
Sure.
So there's a classroom for the adults and a classroom for the children to kind of teach them how to share their faith. So I taught the kids, and that was really challenging for me. And I feel like that was something God asked me to do because Einstein has a quote that says, "If you can't explain what you believe to a 5-year-old, then you don't really understand it yourself." And that was very
Interesting.
challenging because I had a lot of secondhand revelation, right? I had a lot of things that I kind of thought I knew, but it was just other people's words that I was taking.
Right.
But when you have to teach those things to a 5-year-old,
Right.
you really got to understand it in order to break it down. So that was a really cool experience. And then right after I taught that school, that's when Nepal came in. One of my good buddies said, there's like a 3-week outreach to Nepal, and I'd always wanted to go there just because whenever teams came back from Nepal, they had the wild stories. They were seeing miracles. They were seeing just, some wild things happen.
Something's crazy up in those mountains. huh?
Something's going on over there. It's a very, very deeply spiritual place.
Well, I know the Dalai Lama and the
Yeah.
location and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, so-
I've read some things, but not a lot.
So Nepal's a very interesting place. It's like the bottom portion, like 80% is Hindu, and then the top 20% near the border of Tibet are like Tibetan refugees that fled over,
Sure.
and they're Buddhist.
Oh, okay.
So, but Nepal is interesting in the fact that they kind of like mix in everything. They're very open spiritually. They're as opposed to just like if they were one thing or the other.
Okay.
So, yeah, I went there for. It was supposed to be just 3 weeks, but I bought a one-way ticket there in faith, and just went. Just believed God to provide for me financially,
Uh-huh.
and He did, like every time. But man, my heart was just gripped for these people. I just saw God's image in them. They were just.
So what did you spend most of your time actually doing on the ground?
So we went to different villages and just tried to share our faith with just people who are open. It's not like we pushed them, we weren't trying to convert them, but just having conversations. And a lot of times at first, we would help them with their practical needs.
Sure, absolutely.
Because if their practical needs were met, they would kick us out. We got work to do. We don't got time for this. They're
Right.
very, very hardworking people.
Really?
Extremely hardworking.
Okay.
So we would help them meet their practical needs, whether that was, farming, cleaning up, whatever it was, and then we'd sit down, we'd have some chia, and we'd, chat and kind of share our thing. And we had, of course, translators and everything. And we saw 7 people come to the Lord in 7 days. So it was like
Wow.
an eye-opening experience. Like, wow, people are really interested to hear about Jesus, and people are very, very spiritually open.
Well, how long did you end up staying?
So I stayed there for 40 days total, and then I came back to Hawaii. And before I left there, they had said that they were starting a 6-month school there in Nepal.
Uh-huh.
And they asked me like, hey, we need staff members. Maybe pray about staffing it. I was like, oh, okay, I'll pray about it. Went home, prayed about it. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. So I went back there, and I was on staff at the school. So my school was 20 local Nepali people, and then 20 people from everywhere else in the world. And man, it was awesome. It was so awesome. So me and my co-leader, who was a local Nepali girl, we led a team all throughout Nepal. And what I felt like God's mission for our team is to find the villages of remote Christian believers.
Okay.
Because a lot of people go to Nepal on just short-term missions.
Right.
And they go and they make converts, but they don't make disciples. So they go and just
see what you're
share
saying.
them and then just leave them on their own.
Right.
So what our goal was to go and find these isolated believers, like encourage them, strengthen them in their faith.
Sure.
In order for them to share. Because
Wow.
us coming in as foreigners, we're not going to be able to share in a way that someone who is local, who understands the culture,
Right,
understands
sure.
everything, they can just share in a different way.
Wow.
So I had a pretty, awesome experience there. It just, man, it was like a spiritual high. It was like,
Well, how has all this changed you? Because, I mean, this is very
Man.
non-traditional route.
it's very,
So
yeah, it's non-traditional.
where have you landed? Or I don't know, is there more to the story? Or
Oh, yeah, there's
'cause
a lot more.
Yeah, because how do you end up in Nashville? I
Okay,
mean,
so that was in 2018 to 2019. I was in Nepal, and then I
Okay.
came home in 2019, and I kind of made a verbal 2-year commitment, like, hey, I want to come back and do long-term missions in Nepal. So I came home and I was trying to fundraise because it's a full-time
yeah.
job working as a missionary, so we can't work a job there. So I was trying to fundraise, kind of do my thing, and that's when COVID hit, kind of at the.
I was
in
going to
tw-
say, you're around
Yeah.
the COVID time here.
So that's when COVID hit in 2019, and I went from being on this spiritual high and being on this physical high, in the Himalayas, in just this beautiful, mystical place, just, top of the world, literally. And then I went to being in my hometown on the south side of Chicago, last place I'd ever want to be, sleeping on my mom's couch in this tiny little apartment, just trying to fundraise to get back there. And then COVID hit.
Wow.
And that turned my life upside down. So whenever COVID hit, my mom had a small business. She took care of elderly people in their homes, like a home health
Sure.
care kind of thing. All of her clients canceled services. She completely lost her business. At the same time, she was so stressed out, she developed an autoimmune disease. So she was completely debilitated.
Wow.
She couldn't work. She couldn't do anything. So I had to get a job, just doing construction, and just pay our bills.
Wow.
So, man,
Sounds like a tough road.
man, like I said, I went from being on the spiritual high and this physical high, to just being like in the bottom of the valley.
Uh-huh.
Last place I'd want to be. Breaking my back, doing construction, being around rough guys who,
Right.
you tell Jesus to them, they'll hit you. They don't want to
Yeah.
hear that stuff. You
So
better work.
Where does this get you to here?
Right. So I stayed in Chicago in 2 years, and just kind of just to be honest, I fell into a deep, kind of dark depression.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's a bumpy
Man.
road ahead. So.
Man, it was a bumpy road, and I'm a very extroverted person.
Right.
I'm very social, and just being stuck in that house, in that little
Right.
apartment, doing work I hated, feeling like, God, what is this about? Is this in your plan for me?
I served you. I
I
went to
served
Nepal.
you.
I've done all this stuff, and now
Where
I'm
is
back
this in
here.
your plan for me? Yeah. So I went through questioning faith a lot,
Sure.
struggling with faith, but it never went away. There was always that anchor there of it was kind of this thing of where else would I go?
Right.
I don't have a better option, so I'm going
Right.
to stick with you, but man, this sucks, God. Where the
So
heck
are
am I?
you attending a traditional church, or are you just working and reading on your own? I mean,
During that time in Chicago, I was mostly working and reading on my own. I was going to a mega church, but it just wasn't doing it for me.
Didn't
just,
feel it?
Just felt
Okay.
like more of a kind of a business, more of a agenda.
Okay.
Didn't really feel like I had a connection with anyone there. It just,
yeah.
and it also felt like I couldn't be broken there. When I came into church, I had to put on this mask. Oh, I'm okay. Oh yeah, praise God. But inside I was broken,
Okay.
and I didn't feel it was okay to express that.
Yeah.
So, long story short with that, my mom was applying for a grant for her business that closed down.
Sure.
And eventually, after 2 years, she got a $15,000 grant that she didn't have to pay back. And she's like, hey, let's get out of here. You want to move to Nashville with me? I'm like, yeah, let's get out
So that's how you end up
Yeah,
here.
so we both had, her best friend lives down here, and then I had some connections from YWAM who lived down here, some good friends, and so we decided, yeah, let's move down here. So we made an agreement. I would spend 1 more year with her, sharing an apartment, help her get back on her feet, and then I got to kind of go my own way. So that's what happened. And then I didn't know if I was going to stay in Nashville. I came down here, continued to work construction, just work like a dog, spent all my time doing that to pay the bills, but I eventually ended up here at Ball State. I heard about the Tennessee Reconnect, and I also reflected on my time in missions, and I saw what was most effective if you want to be a successful missionary or really share God is
Right.
you have to have a practical skill to meet people's needs if you want to share anything with them. If you're just coming, just talking, people don't want to hear that. They
Right.
don't got time for that,
Right.
especially not in a third world country. They have no, get out of here. So I realized I have to have a practical skill if I want to be successful long
Okay.
term. So I decided I want to kind of be a mental health counselor and be able to
Okay.
help people,
All
especially
right.
through my experience. I'm still kind of on my own mental health journey, and I'm hoping, once I get this, I'll kind of figure it out myself and
Okay.
get myself in
So that's
in
where
right
Dr.
order.
Burton comes in? and
That's where
everybody?
Dr. Burton,
Okay.
yeah, man, I
Well,
love
that's
Dr.
cool.
Burton. Shout out to Dr. Burton.
All right.
But,
so where are you now? So you're
So now,
going to Vol State.
Going to Vol State.
Not a church. You're
I don't go to
doing-
a traditional church. I
Yeah.
go to a house church.
Okay.
So it's called My Local. That's a plug.
My local?
My Local, yep.
Okay.
So it's a network of house churches. We have 4 all across Nashville. I go to the one on the north side. It's in Goodlettsville. We have one down in Brentwood, one in downtown. So we have them all over. And
Really?
it's
So how does this work? You just, this organization just plan, I mean, I know what church planning is, like
Yeah.
a traditional way.
Yeah.
So how do they plant? Like,
they plant just by it naturally expanding from their own church. So once our house church gets too big and it's filled up too big, okay, time to split and make a new one. Who's the
okay,
most,
so let's have a small house and
Yeah.
15 are meeting there and it
Yeah.
gets to 20.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta,
that'll be about time you split.
really?
And so it just naturally happens in that way. It's not like,
Now, is this associated with any particular organization or particular faith or, sponsored by,
No.
I don't,
not particularly, but as far as like denomination, it would be
Yeah.
more interdenominational.
okay.
So,
Once
anyone's-
again, going back to you
Yeah.
can mix evangelicals with Catholics with whatever.
Yes. And I truly believe that's the way going forward.
Okay.
All these denominations, all this division, all this little petty arguments about theology, is that
Okay.
relevant? Is that
Yeah.
helping anyone?
Yeah.
Really? I don't think so.
So
I think
you
it should be
feel
more
like-
about love.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your faith? Are you
Okay.
helping the poor? Are you,
Now, are most of these people in the church men or women or
it's an even mix.
Okay.
And it's mostly young people right now.
Okay.
But I do believe there's kind of a house church movement that's going to sweep the nation.
Really?
Because people are getting sick and tired of.
So how do you reach out or minister or I don't know, like being a missionary? Like in Nashville, if I'm in
Yeah.
Nashville, I mean, am I going to see you on a street corner saying, "Hey, come to
Well,
Y-Way"? You know?
No. I mean, I'm not. I'd like to be more missionary right now.
Well, how
but
do you
I mean,
find
I'm
me?
busy doing
How do you
school
find
and
just naturally,
just naturally,
organically?
yeah. Organically, yeah. It's an
Okay.
organic thing. It's not like we're have this set hours. Okay, you got to go and find people to come.
Okay.
It's real natural.
Is there
so-
like a hierarchy, or is it?
There's a
So
hierarchy,
there is
yes.
an organization that this
Yes.
is
So we
part
have
of.
one man, Jared. He's like our head pastor over all the house churches. He
Okay.
started it, and then we have individual house pastors for each church.
Okay, and so as they grow, they just expand
Yeah,
proportionally based
naturally,
on
yeah.
that. And they're national?
They're actually international. We have.
Oh, okay.
We actually have a little house church in India.
Wow.
Who started out of ours. So we have a house church
Okay.
in India. We have one in Thailand. We have one in Mississippi. A couple other states, but it's not.
Okay.
It's not too old. I think it's about 4 years old. So we're kind of
Okay.
just starting out. But
Well, I didn't know if there was somebody behind it, somebody who felt led to
Yeah,
do this. Because
there's
I've heard of people meeting in a house, but not house church by definition,
Yeah.
as far as that goes.
Yeah.
So where are you going?
great question. Man,
Yeah.
if I had the answer.
So you got to be a health professional with some
Yeah.
kind of skill. Are you going to stick with the? I mean, is the mission field? That's where
Yeah.
your passion is.
That's my passion, that's my
like
long-term
my
plan.
minister said, God takes you to people, not places.
Right.
So
Exactly. So I'd love to go back, spend some time in Nepal, but I'm pretty open to wherever he wants me.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'd love to get my master's in counseling and then also be able to kind of do that on the side
Mm-hmm.
in order to fund myself because fundraising is,
oh, I know
it's a
not
heck of a
easy.
job. It's not
Yeah.
easy and it's, man, people look
Well,
down
let me.
on you.
I want to ask you a few traditional things before we go.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things I was kind of interested in asking you is, from your perspective, since it's so different,
Mm-hmm.
how do you view the church now for your generation? Is it left the rails? Is it going the wrong direction? I mean,
Well, I mean, I don't know. The church, there's so many different kind of churches. It's hard to do a blanket
oh,
statement.
I understand.
But,
Yeah, one
I'll-
size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, I can
so-
speak to this, what I've personally experienced.
Okay, there you go.
Kind of the non-denominational megachurches
Right.
are
It's not your thing. huh?
they're not. It's not my preference, and it seems a lot more like a business
Okay.
than it does like
Yeah.
a group of people meeting.
Yeah.
So what I love about my church and what we like to say is we're a group of people doing life together, as
Okay.
opposed to an organization hosting events. Does
Okay.
that make
I see
sense?
what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're like, everyone in my house church knows each other well.
Right.
We're all connected. We all know each other's struggles, and we're all praying for each other. As opposed to you go to a mega church, you don't have a connection with the pastor. You don't really know him, and you don't. It's hard to make connections.
I understand you got a couple thousand people between
Yeah.
you and them and
It's-
stuff like
it's hard
that.
to
A
make
lot of
connections
people have
there.
talked about that. So,
There. Yeah. So
wow.
I would just love to see that tithe instead of going to smoking lasers, putting on this big performance. I would love to see it like, okay, what if we fed the hungry?
Yeah.
What if we helped the widows instead of
Okay.
having this gigantic building, smoking lasers? Pastors living like a rock star. Like, where the heck is that in the Bible? That's way out there.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy stuff that's going on in the church. But
So
you
you're
know-
going to stay in this area, finish your health degree or whatever, and then try to go back with this group to Nepal? Is that kind of the plan right now?
it's the rough plan. I don't have a perfect plan. If I did, man, I'd feel a lot better.
Well,
but
let me ask you real quick. Did you know about the Asbury revival last year?
Yeah.
At Asbury, yeah, because I went to that, and I can see why a lot of people were drawn to that type of revival.
Yeah.
And I'm like you. I believe it'll sweep the world. I think the Bible talks about that last awakening, that last opportunity.
Yeah.
And as far as that goes, well, I've always been curious about this. How do you view heaven and hell? Do you do it the traditional definition, or do you believe in both, or
Yeah, I believe in both. I believe.
You
hell-
obviously believe in the devil. You shared that. so-
Unfortunately, yeah. I wish I could
Unfortunately.
just not, but yeah, I had a wacky experience that kind of
Okay.
really cemented that for me. But I believe hell is ultimately just eternal separation from God.
Okay,
So it's maybe
that's a very traditional
traditionally, yeah.
definition.
I don't want to get too deep into the weeds there.
No, it's fine.
But I
So
have
what's
been.
heaven?
Good question. So I think a lot of people think heaven is just this faraway place you
Uh-huh.
go.
Okay.
But I've been kind of learning more that heaven's actually going to come to earth,
Oh, okay.
right? So
Yeah.
instead of just heaven being this far off place you go, yeah, we can just squander the earth. Who cares about this old raggedy place? We're leaving this place. We're going somewhere else.
Right.
I think that's actually not a great mindset to have, and I don't believe Christians should have that mindset.
Sure.
I believe that we should be tending to the earth, taking care of it, and I
Okay.
do believe that heaven is going to come down to earth as
Really?
opposed to us going off to this place far in the stars.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is
Mm-hmm.
very pragmatic, and it's because of this show, doing this podcast, that's really
Mm-hmm.
gotten me. So how do you see your generation on the religion part? I mean,
Yeah.
there's seems to be a lot of lost people. How would you pull them in? Like if you were
Mm-hmm. Well-
if you were counseling some young
Yeah.
minister who's trying to reach your generation, how would you do it?
Same
I mean,
way.
you've got a real varied background, so
Yeah, I mean, I think the most powerful thing we have is our testimony, our personal experience.
Sure.
That's what people can relate to, as opposed to
Okay.
sitting down, let me open the Bible and tell you these words. People may be more turned off to that, but if I can share you like, hey, I have a personal experience, hear my story. People are a lot more open to that. And
yeah,
I think,
and I had a relationship because everybody,
Yeah.
a lot of people have talked about, I want a relationship with God.
Yeah.
I want to experience Him.
Yeah.
I don't want to,
and I think if
I
you
just don't
do,
want to talk about Him.
right. And I think if you do want to effectively share your faith, you should have a relationship with that person, actually.
course,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I think through relationship and just being honest, sharing your story.
Yeah.
And
Everybody talks about authentic,
Yeah.
be real. If you're
Yeah.
not, ooh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
Well, this just happened the other day, and I just wanted to get your take on it. Did you see about the shooting at the Brother Olstein's church in Houston?
No, I heard vaguely about it. But
A woman walked in with a young child, about 4 or 5, and she had a long coat on and a backpack. She took the rifle out and just started shooting. Killed 2 people, if what I heard was correct. She was killed by a couple of off-duty police officers that were in the sanctuary, and the little child that was with her is still in pretty bad shape. Got shot, and a few other people wounded. So
man, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
intense.
it is.
I don't have the
intense.
answer for that one.
Well, I'm not really
That's
so much
wild.
the answer. We haven't really talked about the devil much in this podcast. So
Okay.
I'm going to give you the first crack at it.
All right.
So you believe, because you've mentioned the devil several times, and I haven't brought it up in all the podcasts. So what do you think about the devil? The
Man.
devil's real,
He's
right?
real.
Okay.
And man, if you're someone who doesn't think it's real, man, try witchcraft.
Yeah.
Try it. Try Satanism. It's real.
Yeah.
It's tangible. You can
Yeah.
have a real experience.
Really?
try it out.
So do you
And
think?
I think from that you're going to see, oh man,
Well,
if this
'cause
guy's real.
statistically, there's about 40% of your group that identify as nuns. I'm
Yeah.
not religious. I'm spiritual. It could, like you said, I think you said it better. It can manifest itself in many different ways. So we're just kind of all over
Yeah,
the place.
that could be categorized as New Age spirituality. they
Yeah,
call
there
it.
you go. And you were talking about crystals, manifestation, and all that. So, what's the devil's MO? How
The
does he
devil's-
operate? What's his real, for your generation,
Yeah.
what's the easy way in?
Very good question. So
Yeah.
the devil's MO, and you can look this up. The Church of Satan founder, Aleister Crowley, here's
Okay.
the Church of Satan's message.
There is a Church of Satan.
There's a Church of Satan, and they have a message, and they have an agenda. And it's
Okay.
very simple. Do what thou wilt. Do whatever you want. Do what makes you feel good. The Church of Satan doesn't worship this deity. They worship themselves.
Okay.
Satanism is all about self-worship. Do whatever makes you feel good. Do whatever you think is right. It's
Okay.
all about you. Worship yourself. You're your own God. And that's hidden in New Age spirituality.
Wow. See, I haven't explored that. I haven't read much on it. That's something I'm definitely going to need to do.
very interesting.
And I don't know why. I just felt, I think because you mentioned it a couple of times, because I always pray before I do a podcast, but I'm always looking for something, not necessarily new, but something maybe we've left out. And after you shared this, I thought, well, we need to maybe go a little deeper with some more people and find out what's actually going on.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, back to the devil. He's the angel of light.
Right.
He was, but so that's how he portrays himself as an angel of light.
Okay.
So he wants you to fulfill all your desires, whatever you want. It's all about
Jeez.
you. Be your own God, as opposed to Christianity.
Kind of creeps me out. I'm not going to lie
Man.
to you. I've never been one to pursue talking about the devil or even reading about the devil. I've never not thought he's not real. I believe that.
Yeah.
But I know this sounds kind of weird, maybe, but I feel like it's not someplace I want to get too close to.
No, it's
I
not.
mean,
It's not. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not a happy place.
Yeah.
Unless you're a-religious or whatever. I mean, then it's do
Okay.
whatever you want. But the devil's biggest goal
Right.
is for people to believe he doesn't exist.
Really?
Because he doesn't want people to worship him. He wants people to worship themselves. That's what he's all about, self-worship. He doesn't,
wow.
it's really interesting.
So manifestation is not going to go over good in that world, right?
Well, no, manifestation.
Or is going to go
Manifestation
over well.
is
Okay.
exactly what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get rich in money. I'm gonna get all this stuff. It's all
Yes.
about me, me, me.
I'm going to make straight A's. I'm going to become wealthy.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my own jet.
That's
All right.
it's a ritual. It's a
right.
spiritual. That is a spiritual practice.
Okay.
But is it the true light?
I don't
That's
know.
that's up to y'all to decide.
All right, well, we're going to have to roll. And before we leave, I always love to end on a good note, not a bad note. So anyway, tell anything you might want to share. So in all of your journey and everything, what's the upside?
Man, the upside is I was a very, very broken person.
Okay.
And my core identity was I'm not meant to be here. I'm an accident. I have no purpose. But I felt like God chose me and gave me this new identity of
Okay.
you're beloved, you're a son,
All right.
you're chosen, you have purpose in this life.
Okay.
So I would just encourage anyone listening, just take a shot.
Okay.
What's the worst that can happen? If it's
Yeah.
not for you, okay, but
You
at
know,
least give it a
it's
shot.
funny you should mention that because I was watching The Chosen, and Peter, named from John to Peter, and how the jealousies amongst the different followers of Jesus and everything. But they were talking about how Peter's obviously eventually going to deny Jesus,
Yeah.
which is I can't imagine how horrible that was. But then how Jesus takes you from your brokenness, the most, and does its greatest work.
Yeah.
Because I know in my life, the pandemic, what I went through in that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me because it brought me full circle back around.
Yeah.
So that's always the good message to me as far as that goes. So.
Yeah.
All right, well, man, I loved having you on. You
Yeah,
did
of
not
course.
disappoint.
Well.
And I will tell everybody that the next person we're going to have on, somebody he respects a lot, and I do too, is Dr. Burton. She's a licensed counselor, has a background in it, and she has her doctorate in psychology. And we're going to have her on to talk about depression, anxiety, and what's going on. And I don't know, maybe we'll get into the devil too. I don't know.
Man.
But anyway, I loved having you on. We'll definitely
Yeah.
have to keep in touch. And I also tell everybody on here, and I mean it from the heart, we did not meet by accident.
No chance.
There was no chance.
No chance.
There was a reason we met.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Divine intervention.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, God bless you. Have a happy day. And if you enjoyed what you heard, feel free to share it with other people and reach out to us. God bless you and have a happy day.
People get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to it is who's a humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord.